House Democrats are crusading for medical marijuana rights. Congressman Pete Stark, Jared Polis, and Barney Frank, no shrinking violet, introduced a series of bills that protect medical marijuana entrepreneurs. The legislation classifies medical marijuana dispensaries as legitimate small businesses, thus able to take advantage of federal tax deductions just like any other small business. It also gives immunity from federal prosecution to any person or business in the medical marijuana industry as long as they're operating in compliance with state and local laws. In addition to these reforms, other measures ensure that medical marijuana dispensaries have full access to the American banking system, and the marijuana is reclassified as a drug that is not highly addictive and does have medical value. So what kind of impact can these common sense reforms have on the medical marijuana industry, and what are the chances that they can get passed? Joining me now to offer their takes from New York, David Selig, conservative commentator and federal tax expert and advocate, and Alan St. Pierre, executive director of NORML, National Organization to Reform Marijuana Laws. Welcome to you both. I'm glad to have you guys with us.
Thank you.
Alan, how are medical marijuana dispensaries different from other small businesses?
Right now, they're illegal under federal law, but we have 16 states in the District of Columbia that have, either by initiative or by legislation, made marijuana legal. The state of Colorado and others tax and control the drug despite the federal prohibition.
So the way that dispensaries, if it's an illegal business, then they can't take tax deductions for rent and things like that.
That is the argument that was made in a case 4 years ago that's called Champ, and in that the IRS ruled against a dispensary for $480,000. They litigated it, brought it down to $4,000, and they got their legitimate expenses. If that case prevails, then these 2,300 dispensaries around the United States will continue to keep growing.
Interesting, very interesting. David, what's so scary about marijuana? Why are you opposed to this when these medical purposes have been defined by reasonably good, well, not reasonably good science, I mean published by the American Academy of Sciences?
Well, I've just approached this from a tax perspective. The real concern here is that the legalization of marijuana will cost the taxpayer an awful lot more than the benefits we receive. And I'll give you an actual case in point. There's presently, I believe, 20 states with a marijuana tax stamp. And so far, over the past 20 years, not a single state or municipality has collected one thin dime of voluntary marijuana tax. And the argument is, people will say, I never paid tax on this before, why should I now? And it allows for black marketeers to come in and undercut the market. Additionally,
that was the argument that was made against. That was the argument that was made against not having taxes on things sold over the internet. I mean,
yeah, that's very true, and that's still a very contentious issue right now.
It is,
additionally,
but these people have not been paying taxes because they're illegal companies. There's no provision in state law to get the taxes.
Well, be that as it may, you're still allowed to pay the taxes. You do not have to.
But you got to write a check, and then the feds come in and say you're laundering money. I mean, it seems like
that is not true. That is absolutely not true, sir. There is a provision within the IRC that allows, and as a matter of fact, mandates that if you do make monies from selling marijuana, legal or otherwise, you are obligated to pay taxes on it. And as I said, so far nobody has voluntarily paid a dime. Additionally, when you legalize
excuse me,
yes, sir.
Let's be clear. The states of Oregon, Colorado, New Mexico have taken in already tens of millions of dollars in taxes from legally sold marijuana products. Currently, they have already done so. They have already violated federal law. They have.
Well, why
That's the conundrum we're speaking to.
Against the expenses that it also generates. Additionally, by legalizing it, again, as I was saying, you will open up the door to the free market, the prices will lower.
Good.
And if you are going to tax, wait a minute, if you're going to tax that, now an individual who is selling it again on the black market is going to be able to sell it less than this so-called legitimate.
No, look at the example.
Look, and wait a minute, and we're going to spend more with the states on
You reside in the prime example right now in New York. You have an illegal market for cigarettes because your state overtaxes cigarettes in a United States that does not tax the product. So therefore, if we want to have the product controlled by the government, taxation and control is the only essence. 75 years of prohibition doesn't actually put a dime in the tiller. Not a dime.
And to both of you,
marijuana. Why hasn't it worked?
How, you know, if marijuana is being sold as medicine,
right,
how is it any different going to a marijuana dispensary? How's that any different than going to your local pharmacy and getting, you know, an antibiotic or a painkiller?
The only difference right now is the drug is not controlled or through a tax regulation of the FDA.
No, but I mean, once all that's in place,
yeah,
you know, if this kind of legislation passes, it's just going to a different kind of drugstore, isn't it?
Yeah, there's 400,000 pharmaceuticals in the United States that are sold. This would just simply be another one.
Yeah, so but there would be places that would specialize in it.
Yeah.
Or maybe pharmacies would just start carrying pot.
Why would
you go to your local CVS and say, hey, you know, I'll take...
Walgreens made a fortune by selling alcohol legally during Prohibition to those who needed it. Hundreds of thousands of people got alcohol during Prohibition for medical purposes.
It's the most misleading possible analogy you could be making. And by the way, this argument was also made in Proposition 19 last year,
which only lost by 3 percentage points.
Despite your
3 percentage points.
But you lost all the same.
See in 2012. See in 2012, we're going to win this baby.
It's 2011, and you lost in 2010, and tell them why. They decided because of the money, not because of the social implications,
David,
because of the
social
money.
implications and the money. 55% of all federal prisoners are there for drug offenses. And you know, pot is
among other things. I would say a lot of those prisoners.
Why are we wasting all this money? Why are we wasting all this money on what should be a medical problem? You know, Portugal decriminalized all drugs, not just pot. And what happened? Their crime rate went down, their petty crime rate went down, and addiction to serious drugs is falling off the cliff because you don't have entrepreneurs out there hustling them.
Well, that's just the thing, Tom. You are going to give up one expense for another. You're not going to get rid of the black market because 1/3 of your drug-addled audience does not want to pay taxes on the dope they regularly smoke for medical reasons.
There's no panaceas here. Everybody can acknowledge there's no panaceas here. But prohibition in a free market-oriented society doesn't work for popular products, does it not?
It did not work for alcohol. We're talking basically about a recreational intoxicant.
In this case,
if we're talking about legalizing it, but here we're talking about medicine.
Right. Yep.
And this stuff has been demonstrated to work for glaucoma, for cancer, for the
wait a minute, Tom. Is he talking about medicine?
Well, I think
we've conflated the two.
Our conversation is
conflated the two. We conflated the two.
I'll acknowledge that, and we've got to wrap it up. But I want to thank you both for being here. David, thank you very much for joining us from New York. Alan, thanks for being here in the studio.
Thank you to your viewing audience. They've been so nice to me.
Thank you. Thank you, David. It's about time for some common sense marijuana reforms in this country. Too much money has been wasted, and too many lives have been ruined by Richard Nixon's so-called war on drugs.